Hi, everybody, and welcome back. I hope you had a good cup of coffee. I hope you had some interesting conversation or some nice quiet time. And now I'd like to introduce our next speaker. She is not the youngest person to be on stage here, but she is the youngest speaker by far, yet she has given talks to audiences that would scare the living daylights out of me. She just has a really impressive resume. A few years back, we had Angie Jones here, who gave a very nice talk about how to get girls into coding. Today, we have somebody who actually undertook that journey and will tell you about it. She asked me to tell you that the format of the talk will be a 30-minute talk and then 10 minutes of Q&A. So I will be running around with a microphone again to give you the opportunity to ask all your questions. So can I get a huge hand for Avanti Sharma?
Hello, everyone. I'm Avanti, and I'm delighted to be with you all today. And today, we're actually at quite a special event, the joy of coding. So today, I'll be sharing the joys of a young girl who turned from being a ballet dancer and a competitive gymnast into the world of coding. But before we jump into it, let's discuss why this topic is important. Coding has been around for a relatively long time, since the early 1950s. But the work of coders has been quite obscure to common people. Many experts even believed that coding had no or minimal influence on the way the world runs. And it was a common sentiment that coding, like learning ancient Greek, will be something many kids do for fun, or that personal computers are just a passing fad, a hobbyist toy. Now, coders were kind of regarded as old, weird nerds who liked to work late at night and had a unique experience. However, it was Bill Gates who brought the joy angle into coding. Thanks to his stellar accomplishments, he was able to bring down the coding age from 55+ to 35+, which fell again to 28+ in the early 2000s. Likewise, Steve Jobs brought the joy angle to hardware devices, which in turn were dependent on coding to deliver features and functionality. Jobs wanted to impress the audience and had the dream of giving everyday people tech in their hands. And from that sentiment, Apple was born, which has grown to become a $3 trillion company today. So, thanks to these two giants, coding has been recognized to the world and has been brought to common people. And there have been 3 days dedicated to support the joy of coding. Firstly, there is Programmers' Day, celebrated this year on the 12th of September as the 256th day of the year. And this day was chosen because it's the number of unique digits represented by 2 to the 8. And that's pretty cool, I'm not going to lie. That's really smart. And just caution 1 second, normally it's celebrated on the 13th of September, but we're in a leap year this year, so it's a different day. Secondly, on November 11th, UNESCO declared October 29th as World Coding Day, after adopting the UA's proposal to accept October 29th as the International Day of Coding. This date was chosen to also coincide with their anniversary of Dubai Launch Internet City. And the objectives of World Coding Day are to, A, recognize the importance of algorithmic thinking in a broad perspective, B, to have digital and STEM literacy for all, and C, to address global challenges while working together, recognizing the potential of algorithmic thinking in working inclusively to more sustainable and bright future. The third day was actually more recent. It was declared this year, and it's March 19th to celebrate the International Day of Digital Learning. And additionally, from a kind of broader perspective, we also have the UN's International Day of Education, celebrated on January 24th, as well as the UN Sustainable Development Goal number 4, named Quality Education. OK, now let's come back to kind of Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. due to their spectacular achievements, millions of coders came into existence. However, millions more did not join. Coding was projected by some to be a kind of boring, repetitive task where coders had poor work-life balance and were kind of weird people who stayed up the whole night playing video games. And this kind of continued even with the rise of BlackBerry and the iPod and the iPhone, and also Macintosh, signifying drastic technological advancements. The table started to turn in favor of coding from around 2010 onwards, with the arrival of block-based programming tools like Scratch or MIT App Inventor, which empowered young coders to be able to see the output of their code instantly with drag-and-drop programming. And from this changed perspective, younger generations were able to understand that coding is quite a unique profession. Today, it's estimated to both boom in the coming years with Gen AI, and McKinsey estimates that Gen AI will generate 30 million jobs globally by 2030, more than it would displace. But in parallel, we have the CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen Huang, essentially saying that we won't really need programmers in the future, and we just need prompt engineers. Possibly, they're continuing with the same legacy where great minds had once said, I think there's a world market for maybe 5 computers. Or that this telephone has too many shortcomings to be seriously considered as a means of communication. The device is inherently of no value to us. And amidst the effort of kind of bringing coding into the spotlight, we have a small bottleneck emerging. Mainstream media and a few prominent voices are warning the world of AI taking us over without inherently understanding the limitations AI comes with that are likely to continue. But the bigger concern is something else. Whenever there's a new wave of new technology, first with IoT and now with Gen AI, the relevance of coders is being discussed at the forefront. But the journey of what we as coders have been through, which has been a very long and transformative path, which has gone through and faced many challenges, obstacles, and had both moments of learning and joy, are often being forgotten or overlooked. As coders, we're often perceived as just an extension of a computing device, devoid of emotions, aspirations, and maybe apprehensions. So today, let's zoom out and let's discuss the journey of a coder. And to do this, let's follow the journey of a young girl who turned from being a ballet dancer and competitive gymnast into the world of coding. What she did, what she learned, the challenges, the triumphs, and where she stands today will be shared with the audience. And before we jump into it, one small note. In a coder's perspective, one needs to be able to separate who they as a person are and have been with what they are sharing today, to have an impartial and without emotions view of things. A coder needs to be able to separate these two worlds. And that's what's happening now, as I'm just a narrator. If there's any resemblance of face on the slides, it could be a coincidence. And those who may still kind of get distracted by the resemblance of face, I have brought these to help make a distinction in your mind. Are we all ready? OK, let's start. So just remember me with these if you get confused. So, I mean, we kind of started off as a stereotypical girl who kind of loved princesses, watched Swan Lake 3 dozen times, and loved having really long hair. She went to ballet class at the age of 3, and then went on to go on to gymnastics and join the Conservatoire choir to go all the way up to competing in national-level competitions and singing in the Christmas choir. She was happy with life. Teachers were happy with her. Her parents used to give her her fair share of scoldings and also support her. And she was just, life was good, you know. She was so fine. And she was around 9 by now. And in spring of 2016, her brother, who's 5 years older than her, was invited to give a presentation at the global tech conference LIFT 2016 in Geneva. Her parents and her accompanied him. LIFT was a big event, and it was her first time ever seeing something this huge. There was a massive stage where her brother delivered an amazing keynote on science and computing and became an instant celebrity. During the conference, she spent the 3 days perfecting her front handspring she had learned at gymnastic classes. After the event, they returned home. But this event left a deep mark. She had seen the big stage, the huge dinner, and heard the thunderous applause. She dreamt of some of those for herself, too. But how could she make it happen? The matter stayed in her subconscious mind. When back in Luxembourg, she was back in her daily routine, sleeping late on school days, rushing through the chores, running to her classes. Life was as usual, until one more incident happened. Her mother and brother launched a new initiative in Luxembourg, Workshop for Me, to introduce young children to coding in an informal environment. The concept took off well, and they soon had all classes full. Even 6-year-old children signed up, and she knew they needed to be spoken to and treated differently. They wouldn't understand adult language and would often get intimidated by them. Her brother was already busy with teenage students of his age. This made a vacancy available for a new coach, maybe aged 11, who could fit into the role. And that's where she was there. She just had to rise up to the occasion. So she did. She quickly learned Scratch, the programming tool used, and then perfected the art of teaching those concepts with varying degrees of linguistic skills. And this is where the first joy comes in. So, you know when you run a program for the first time and you see the output of the code you wrote appear on the screen? That's a big joy in itself. When she learned Scratch, she felt the joy of being able to see her code work. When she became a coach at Workshop for Me, she got to share that joy with so many other people who will one day do the same for someone else. This cycle is self-sustaining and gives everyone a huge sense of fulfillment. Okay, let's jump back to the story. So doing this and becoming a coach at Workshop for Me led her to being able to do what first sparked her eye. Her first big event was in 2018, where she became a finalist for the Booking.com's Technology Playmaker Awards, held in London, where Gillian Tans and Randy Zuckerberg mentioned her in their speech. Later the same year, she went on to deliver her first ever talk at the Scratch conference in Budapest, where Mitch Resnick, the founder of Scratch, attended her session. And following from then on, she continued on the journey to present at various ideas and solutions at tech conferences, some key ones being TEDx HU Berlin, the EU Commission's Digital Education Stakeholder Forum, CodeMotion Milan, and recently Mobile World Congress, while representing Luxembourg as the first and only speaker. And along the journey, she's been lucky enough to have gotten support from some incredible people. Notably, Randy Zuckerberg, who mentioned her in her keynote address to the audience, and thereafter invited her to be interviewed on her podcast, Complicated. Simona Barberi, the founder of HubDot, who gave her the opportunity to pitch at their global event in London in 2018. Ayumi Murayoki, the founder and CEO of Women in Tech, who first introduced her to the importance of women in technology. Jill Rosen, the CMO of Amdocs, who inspired her by recounting his own journey. And this is where the second joy comes in, inspiration. So because she learned to code, it led her to meet and become inspired by these incredible individuals. Coding opened a door that she would not have had access to otherwise. And it led her to being able to do what first sparked her eye, where her brother dynamically delivered hot takes in tech at the LIFT conference in 2016. Interacting with these individuals motivated her to take up new projects and challenges. And through the journey, she was able to work on a variety of projects. The first being in 2018, where she participated in her first ever hackathon, the Game of Code. The hackathon brought together very professionals like PwC, Dockler Holding, Deloitte, SES, and other major companies to work for 24 hours straight on a project according to the challenge chosen. In the same competition, she participated with her friends as part of Code Club, a nonprofit. The experience was invigorating, and they learned so much from being able to work as a team under pressure, distributing tasks, and also pitching with a hard time limit. But when the project was completed and the code done, it filled the team with immense joy. So when the award ceremony followed the jury deliberations, she was quite surprised to hear that her team had won the special prize and third place out of participating professional teams. And later that year in 2019, later the next year in 2019, she participated in a in making a hardware project in a national competition with her friends. And this led her to kind of being able to go to the coolest projects in Dublin to present in an international competition in 2019. Now, following from then on, she continued to participate in different robotics and technology conferences, each of which brought a new bouquet of learning and insights each and every time. And this is where the third joy comes in, arousing from the second one. Learning to code got her to meet these inspiring people. Meeting these inspiring people motivated her to take up new projects. And throughout this journey, she has been able to learn from so many experiences she had. Coding was a door to other learnings for her. And what this shows is that coding is more than just green text on a black screen. It's the journey of getting there. And throughout that journey, one learns a lot. One is continuously working, improving, and getting better. Not just at coding, but also as an individual. I started off today by saying that we're at quite a special event. And it's special because it doesn't focus on coding as a tool for maximizing machine potential and efficiency. Instead, it focuses on what coding brings to us as people, the joys of coding. When UNESCO declared October 29th as World Coding Day, they did so with the message of championing a world where machine potential meets where human creativity drives machine potential, setting the stage for a digital, prosperous future for us all. You, me, and every other coder in the room has the power of making sure that we stay committed to our better future promise, but also to our promise of valuing the journey more than the terminal's output. Thank you.
So, does anybody have any questions for Avanti? Please raise your hand.
So thank you very much, Avanti, for that presentation. A question that I have for you, when did you identify yourself as a coder? Because you started off and said you did ballet and a whole bunch of things, but at what point did you then identify yourself as a coder?
So, I mean, I would say that this girl kind of identified as a coder when she was, okay, I'll drop the third party. So I identified myself as a coder. I would say it was kind of not a sudden transition, you know, because for me, I saw my family doing it. I saw all of these kids doing it. So I just kind of got involved naturally. And then when I got involved naturally and then I became a coach, I was like, okay, but am I a coder? You know, so I think it's a continuous journey. Maybe the starting point was learning Scratch, which kind of made me get into it, and then continue on to learn real programming languages. So that's kind of how it started. I would say that's the transition. Thank you.
So, a question from me. Looking ahead, where do you plan to go from here?
Wow, okay, great question. So I'm a school student right now, so I'm still in school, but my idea is really to spread the message, and I say that Joy of Coding was a special event because it really is. So the idea is to spread the message of the joys of coding all across the world. All of the things which were said on the screen by big people and the common sentiment alike were both kind of what we see back then, but also what is kind of ushered around right now. And we've seen this with every new technology. I'm sure that we have a lot of coders in the room. And you must have always gotten this comment from your colleagues, maybe saying that, oh, your job will be replaced, or, oh, you won't be needed in a few years. How do you feel about that? So there's kind of this common sentiment of just not knowing the relevance of coders. And I think that's my biggest journey, or the biggest thing I want to do in the next 5 years, is to spread that message further.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So sort of a follow-up question on these future plans, like what software would you like to work on? What would you like to build, or what type of software would you like to exist connected to this message?
Great. So what I would like to do is, I think the first thing into getting into coding is feeling comfortable with technology. And we see that many people often don't feel comfortable with technology, and be it for many different reasons. So I would like to focus on getting more women in tech. I was inspired by Ayumi Morayuki, who I mentioned earlier. And I've actually already been working on 2 software applications called Studified and Are You Sure? And basically, they work towards protecting younger generations online. So right now online, we see this kind of huge burst of different things happening. In fact, in Europe alone, 37% of children aged 5 to 17 have communicated with a stranger online. And these interactions can kind of trap and destroy the minds of innocent adolescents globally. And that's kind of what made me set out on this mission to develop these 2 softwares, Are You Sure and Studified, to help teens stay safe online. I can explain more maybe later, but the idea is to give them a more informed decision or more information before interacting with a stranger. Because often teens don't know who is actually their age or who is someone disguising to be their age.
Hi. I have a 7-year-old daughter.
Sorry, OK.
How would how would I start getting her to get enthusiastic about coding?
Oh, great. So there's actually this software released by MIT. It's called Scratch Junior. And it depends on if she's comfortable with reading already or not. But basically what it is with Scratch Junior, it's just icons, so you don't even have to read. And you can and she can kind of drag and drop blocks. It's kind of like Lego. And you connect them together. And this is really great because what it does is it sets in the child's mind the thinking of like algorithmic thinking, step-by-step instructions, one after another after another. Because when you speak, you don't really say exactly what you need to do. But when you are using Scratch Junior, then you actually have to plan out every single thing one by one. So I would highly recommend Scratch Junior. And if your child can read comfortably, Scratch, which is an online website, is also great to start off.
Any other questions? No?
Hi, so mine's a follow-on from the previous question as well. In your talk, your protagonist started ballet at 3 years old, which is in itself makes me wonder, is there an age that's too early to get into programming?
100% not. So start like instantly, the second the child's born, give them a book about how nodes work. I'm not even there are really cool books out there, so there is not an age. And this goes both ways, by the way. If you're on the other side of 55, you can also get into programming, like my dad. And if you are below and on the lower side of 55, you can also get into programming. So it has no age whatsoever. And another point of programming is, I try to kind of highlight this, but it's not just about making a project and making it work, right? It's the journey of getting there. And this journey involves different ways of thinking, and it like shapes one's outlook as a person. And that's why I say that whichever age you are, definitely get into it, because you will learn a lot along the way.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Avanti. And I see our very, very youngest programmer in the room already. So I think she's fast asleep at the moment.